Baseball is the hardest and most mental game in the world. It'll mess you up. That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Travis Rogers. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Travis Rogers, Rogers spelled just like Dodgers. Your team every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you check us out on YouTube as well. You can give us a subscription, a like, all that good stuff, and make sure that you get your Dodger news every single day. I've been covering a whole bunch of stuff here in LA for years. I've been on the radio for 30 years here in LA, and right now currently at ESPN 710 with my friend DeMarco Farr, Super Bowl champion DeMarco Farr. Do the Locked On Rams podcast as well with my pal Doug McCade, so make sure that you check that out as well. Dodgers with an off day on Monday, getting ready to open up a series against another team that they should have a fairly good chance of taking care of business against, the Chicago White Sox, who are really struggling as well. So a little bit of a chance to kind of look at some of the other things around the Dodgers right now. And I was reading something yesterday that really kind of opened my eyes again about how mental baseball really is. And before we get to that, let me remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So baseball is hard. Baseball is incredibly difficult, especially at the major league level, where you got guys that are throwing upwards of 100 miles an hour and finding new spin rates and shapes and arm this, that, and the next thing that just makes hitting virtually impossible. That we've gone from a time where throwing 95 was a really electric fastball, and there might only be one or two guys on each team that were able to get it up to that sort of velocity, where now 100 has become kind of normal, and sliders that look like something out of the Matrix are regular occurrences in Major League Baseball. So hitting, of course, gets more and more challenging. And I was reading an article about Max Muncy. Jack Harris of the LA Times was writing, and I thought it was a great demonstration on A, how hard it is to hit and how quickly it can go away, but B, perhaps even more importantly, just how mental baseball is, and just how quickly you can lose it is exactly how quickly you can find it. And it has no rhyme or reason. You don't know when it's coming or going. It just kind of does. And this is why you have to let guys that have proven they can hit, that they've proven that they can perform at a certain level in the major leagues. And even if all of the evidence is saying they can't do it anymore, give them more time, give them more time, give them more time. Of course, I'm talking about Max Muncy. Max Muncy was having the most brutal stretch of his career as a Dodger. It was ugly. Not just, hey, this is a slow start, but rather, do they need to get a third baseman? Do they need to try somebody else there? Do they need to take him out of the lineup? And this is a guy that is, by the time it's all said and done, he's going to be right near the top of all-time home runs in a Los Angeles Dodger uniform. That's how good of a hitter Max Muncy has been. That's how productive of a power hitter he has been. But through the first 30 games of this season, he was batting under 200 and had 0 home runs. That's not a bad start. That is a 5-alarm fire, okay? And then all of a sudden, early in May 9th to be specific, he gets a base hit against Arizona, and everything clicks. Everything is right back in the place where it's supposed to be with a player like Max Muncy. And not just back to normal, but maybe even above normal, maybe even a stretch in his career that's been as good as it has ever been. I want to give you some numbers. Through the first 36 games of the season, Max Muncy was batting $188 and it hit 1 home run. You've heard me say this on Locked On Dodgers. If you're an everydayer here at LOD, you know that I told the story about, on my radio show, we were discussing a scenario where one of the big three, Mookie, Freddie, Shohei, would not win an MVP, but rather another Dodger outside of that group would. And I made the argument that the way it would happen is somebody that wasn't Shohei, Mookie, or Freddie was able to clean up on all of the stuff that those guys are doing and put together a statistical season that is so bananas that you just had you couldn't ignore it. That Shohei, Mookie, and Freddie were all just normal good as opposed to otherworldly good, and somebody else stepped into that void. And the person that I used as that example is, what if Max Muncy just has the year of his life and he knocks out a bunch, he hits 40-plus home runs, he drives in, 115, has an OPS over 1,000. Like, there's a scenario where that could happen. Well, it didn't, right? He got off to a brutal start. Everybody's going, where's your MVP, Trav? Never mind that. It's not exactly what I said, but you can certainly understand how people would hear it the way. And now here we are after the first 36 games of the season, 188 and 1 home run. Since May 9th, in the 43 games since then, he's batting .313. Max Muncy was floating around 200 for the last couple of years. Big boom, big bust, a lot of strikeouts, and the classic 3 true outcome guy, right? Walk, K, homer. That's kind of what he was, and was not, for lack of a better description, a complete hitter. But 43 games, last 43 games, a .313 average, 12 homers, and 47 RBIs. Not one, but 2 7 RBI games in a week. And then throw in a 6 RBI game on top of it. Why? Because he got glasses. Okay? Because he got diagnosed with astigmatism in one of his eyes, and he put on a pair of glasses, and now all of a sudden no one can get him out. Sure. Right. No question about that a pair of glasses is what has turned this around. Maybe. Or let me throw this at you. Could it be that baseball is the most mental, weird, impossible, confusing thing in the world, where all of a sudden you put on a pair of glasses that by the way, his vision was 2012, and this corrected a minor issue. And now it's like, oh, I can see again, I can hit. Okay. Tell me that that 2012 wasn't good enough? Come on, man. This goes back to the Bull Durham line, right? Where Nuke Lelouch is putting on the garter belts and he's trying to figure out how to get out of a slump where he can't get anybody out, and he pitches well that day. And then later in the movie, Crash Davis says, if you think you're pitching well and winning games because you wear women's underwear, then it's because you are. That's what this is. He tried something different. He had a good day. And now he's telling us that all of a sudden it clicked. All of a sudden it is back. All of a sudden that's the swing that he'd been searching for a couple of years. I'm not saying there aren't some mechanical adjustments. I'm not saying that he didn't work his tail off in the batting cage with the hitting coaches, that he wasn't spiraling, that he wasn't doing everything he could to try to rediscover what made him a great hitter. What I am suggesting is that perhaps the glasses are much more of a, hey, try this, and you had a good day, and all that work finally paid off in that moment, as much more so than it is, hey, I can see the ball a little bit better. He could see the ball. But now all of a sudden, he's able to hit again. And by the way, I'm not laughing at him. I get it. I understand it. This is something that only baseball players do. This is why guys, lunatics like Wade Boggs, would eat chicken every day for their entire life. This is why guys get to the ballpark at the same exact time every single day, because they believe these wacky, crazy superstitions work. And if you think they work, guess what they do? They work. And I think that's what Max Muncy is describing. I'm thrilled. I hope that the glasses work forever and ever. I think, if I had to bet, that eventually his numbers will come back down a little bit, that the glasses will not be as, quote, effective as they were, and Max Muncy will end up having the season that he always has. Not because of glasses, but because he's a really good hitter. But because he always hits about 30 home runs. Sometimes it might be 35, sometimes it might be 27, somewhere in there. And it's because he's good. It's because he works hard. It's because he continues to go about his craft in a way that is meaningful and deliberate, and the glasses happen to go on at roughly the same time. Okay. I get it. I'm happy for him. I hope that they stay on for a very long time. But look, they need him. He's right in the middle of that order. He's making a push to make the All-Star team. I don't know if he might get voted in. That's a whole nother topic that we'll get to coming up a little bit later on this edition of Locked On Dodgers. But it just really struck me, and I'm pulling for the guy. I like the guy a lot. I think he's an incredibly important part of what they do. But I don't know if it was the glasses as much as it is just baseball doing its thing, where it will drive you crazy to the point where you're just about to say, I can't do this anymore, man. And then it gives you a little something and sucks you right back in. He's a very, very good player who's very, very hot right now, and it is a thrill to see it. All right, so that's the good news. Max Muncy is swinging that hot bat over the last month and a half or so. Hopefully that continues. The bad news is one of the pitchers that the Dodgers have been trying to get back had a little bit of a setback in the minor leagues. That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. Do you ever wish that managing your money felt a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. So whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own little personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app, right? It is a complete financial command center, so you can track all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. So there's all sorts of things that this can track and make sure that you're not overdoing, or make sure that you actually know what's happening, like takeouts, right? Subscriptions that add up. Whoa, I'm spending that much on takeout food. Way more than you expected. Monarch Money can let you be aware of that, right? And of course, you have everything in one app right in front of you. So managing your money day to day is so much easier. And how about this? I know a lot of us, right? You got partners, you got wives. So if you're sharing finances with somebody, Monarch can help you stay on the same page together, so you both know what you're looking at every single day. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, moving right along on Locked On Dodgers. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. How about for a second listen, you check out the Locked On Rams podcast or any of your other favorite teams. We got just about everything covered here on Locked On. You got a team, we got a podcast for it, so go find it on Locked On as well. All right, let's talk about, we talked about yesterday the fact that the Dodgers are finally starting to get some optionality in their pitching, and specifically in the starting rotation. You started to see some guys come back. You started to see some guys ascend. You started to see some guys settle into some roles that I think that the Dodgers can feel pretty good about. That Clayton Kershaw, quite frankly, might have been a guy that's like, look, let's get to 3,000 and just see what we can do. But are you really going to lean on him to be a regular part of your rotation? Turns out he's been really good. So he checks one of these boxes. We talked about Justin Robleski yesterday. He's been really good. He's been pitching 5-6 outings at a clip. So he's kind of taken on a role as a starting pitcher, even though he hasn't started a lot of these games. He's been really good. You started to see Shohei Ohtani get stretched out just a little bit, more of a opener sort of role, but that's going to start to take care of itself. Then, of course, you got Yamamoto and May taking their turns regularly. Those are the two guys that have been workhorses through most of the day. But there's still 2-3 really big names on the Dodger in the starting rotation that have not been available for any meaningful stretch of time during this season. Roki Sasaki, of course, got shut down. We'll see whether or not he's going to be able to come back before the end of the year. But the other two went down relatively early, and they are at least getting closer to starting to come back. Blake Snell, maybe there'll be some more aggressive bullpens coming up later in the week. Maybe we'll start to see him face some live hitters before too long, but it feels like he's still a ways away. That leaves, of course, Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow is in the minor leagues on a rehab assignment, and it did not go well. It did not go well from a statistical standpoint, from an eye test standpoint, from everything that I've seen and heard. That the velo was pretty good, right? So you're talking about an average fastball velocity of nearly 97 miles an hour. That certainly will do the trick. So his fastball had some good life on it, but the rest of it was not so good. He was not able to land his slider in a way that would be effective, to the point of they were hoping to get him through about 4 innings. In the minor leagues. He lasted just a little bit more than 2 1/3 innings. Here's a number that would really kind of make you go, say, what now? 7 hits in those 2 1/3 innings, 5 runs. Okay, what that part actually, believe it or not, doesn't really give me a ton of pause. The 7 hits does. 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. This is something, and it's not something that is particularly good. That this is somebody who has had a career that has been defined by not pitching very much. A career that has been defined by when he does pitch, he's awfully good, but he just is not out there nearly enough to where you can feel like you can count on him in a meaningful way. When he's in the major leagues and pitching well, he's a pretty good pitcher. It just doesn't happen enough. And the question is why? The question is, how do you go through it? And there's all sorts of, the mound thing in Washington earlier this year where it was wet. There just seems to be a little something off with him way more often than your average guy who pitches in the big leagues, than your average guy who might even have a little bit of an injury history that you just can never really hang your hat that it's going to be here for. Like Blake Snell is another one that when he's pitching is awesome, but he's missed some time. But there's a different, when he's out there, he competes like crazy. He's out there and he's fighting from inning to inning, from at bat to at bat. And that vibe for Tyler Glasnow does not translate quite the same way as it does with someone else, which led me to ask the following question. Not yet, but is this the first bad deal that the Dodgers have done with Andrew Friedman? Is this the first deal that you look at and you go, yeah, man, you might have wanted to see this one coming? This felt like something that you really shouldn't have gone in the way that you did. We're talking about a 5-year deal, over $100 million for Tyler Glasnow. You have Ryan Pepiot going out the other way, Tyler Glasnow coming in this way. And it just really has not borne a ton of fruit. I know that he had a career high in innings last year, but we're talking barely over 100. What is that? He was not available at the most important time of the year, at the end of the season and through the postseason. He comes back this year and has some different mechanics, and he immediately breaks, and he's immediately down, and he's struggling in the minor leagues, and he can't land pitches. This deal is not getting better by any stretch of the imagination. And then you put it together with what Ryan Pepiot was doing in Tampa, and he's pitching. He's pitching reasonably well. He's out there on a regular basis. And this is the one thing that the Dodgers have really struggled with. And they've been able to cover it. They've been able to win. They're the defending World Series champions. They're going to run away and hide in the division this year with a pitching staff that was held together with spit and glue for a few months at a time. But I was about to ask, can you afford to have a guy? Yes, the Dodgers can afford it. But this is one of those that a guy with an injury history was given a lot of money and really hasn't pitched, or has not pitched enough to make you feel like you're getting your money's worth. Blake Snell, we'll see what it looks like, right? He's off to a weird start too, but I just, there's more history of success. There's more history of being available in really big moments for him than there are with Glasnow. And we'll see. There's still, 3 more years on the deal after this. Hopefully he comes back and lights it up. Hopefully he comes back and puts together a second half of the season that makes me, say, hey, you know what? Way back on July 1st, when we were talking about Tyler Glasnow, boy, did I miss that one. I'd love to say that. But this is one of those, it doesn't see, go back to that moment where, what was it, a month or so ago, where Glasnow said, Dave Roberts said that there was a little bit of a setback. It's not quite where we want it to be. And he and Glasnow himself said, no, I'm good. It's like it's not adding up the way that you would like. It's not coming together in a way that leads you to believe everybody's on the same page. And when you look, guys get hurt, guys go down. It's part of modern baseball, but there's never really been a ton of disconnect between the Dodgers and some of their other pitchers, the way there seems to be some disconnect between Tyler Glasnow and the messaging that gets put out there. And certainly the performance has not been good. Dave Roberts said he looked fine, but he wasn't efficient. Yeah, I mean, you're giving up 7 hits to minor leaguers. Yeah, that's not particularly efficient. They say that he might need a couple more rehab outings before he can finally come back to the big leagues. Hopefully it's that. Hopefully he gets sharper. Hopefully he gets better. And we're talking about him coming back to the rotation, looking really good in the process. And all of a sudden the Dodgers have one more option as we get closer and closer to the postseason. But it just put it on your radar. Just one of those things to clock, that this may be the one, so many successful reclamation projects, so many big deals, Mookie, Freddie, Shohei, that have just been absolute grand slams in the grand scheme of things. Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith, just guys that the signings, the draftings, the trades, go back to Justin Turner and Chris Taylor and all of these guys that these resurrection projects that have really worked out. This may be one of those that just, kind of went the other way. Hopefully not. And there's still plenty of time to turn it around, but something to note as we get heading into the last 3 months of the season here. Just a few weeks away from the Major League Baseball All-Star break. Could the Dodgers beat a composite MLB All-Star team? It's a lot closer than you might think. That's coming up next on Locked On Dodgers. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're about baseball under the lights, that's a great night. Golf on the green, also good, or high-stakes soccer action, if that's what you like, go knock yourself out. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. So you're already following the action, right? You're enjoying these games. You're taking them in. And why not make it a little bit more thrilling, a little more interesting, a little more invested, right? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends, they're at the beach getting sunburned, cooking their faces off, right? It's super easy to use FanDuel. It is super fast to pay out after your big wins. And it makes even that regular season game, like, I don't know, a game on a Tuesday against the last place team feel like must-watch events. So whether you are placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you are part of the actions. And, of course, they like to keep it fresh on the app with new daily promotions and super fun ways to bet. So if you are new to FanDuel, now is the time. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open that FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Pressing forward on Locked On Dodgers, make sure to give us a follow. Make sure that you are an everydayer. It does not cost you a thing. Just show up every day and check out your podcast on your favorite team, the Los Angeles Dodgers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Rogers as well. So let's talk a little bit about this Dodger team and where they are right now as we're heading in to the second phase of All-Star voting. And I'm looking for something here, kind of going through this. The Dodgers have a chance to put more people on an All-Star game than anybody we've seen since the 1950s, right? The last time that we saw something like this was when the New York Yankees in 1959 had 8 guys on the All-Star team, and the Dodgers have a chance to do something very, very similar. Now, the question is, are they going to be so good throughout the second course of the regular season that you actually, when we're talking about an All-Star team, a team of just Dodgers, the Dodger regular lineup, would it be better than an All-Star team of everybody else in Major League Baseball? I'm not even talking about an All-Star team against the rest of the National League. I'm talking about everybody. Let's just kind of go through this very quickly, position by position, and tell me if this. And look, I'm gonna give you the end right now. The other team is better, maybe. It's close, right? Let's just go through it position by position. I'm going to take the best Dodger starting pitcher right now, the guy that if you had one game and we got to win this whole thing right now, tonight, who do you throw out there? It's Yoshinobu Yamamoto, right? I think everybody would agree with that. He's certainly the guy that's going to give you the most length. He's a guy that's going to compete. He's a guy with some experience in these moments. You would feel great sending Yamamoto out to the mound in this game. He would be pitching against Tarik Skubal. Yeah, that's a problem. He's pretty good. However, we saw the Dodgers beat Skubal this year. We saw him, opening day at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers were able to take Skubal down. So certainly I would give the nod to Skubal. He's having an incredible season, but it is not a runaway. If we're looking at catcher, let's go to the next position. Cal Raleigh is the best catcher in Major League Baseball right now. He's got the 32 home runs. He's, putting on an MVP push in the American League. He's giving Judge a run for his money. Is he better than Will Smith? He might be having a better year than Will Smith. He might hit a few more home runs than Will Smith. Is it close? Yeah. Will Smith should be the National League starting catcher, and for good reason, because he has put that thing we were talking about a minute ago with Muncy and how he could have been an MVP coming into the season. Will Smith is kind of following that pattern right now. So that's incredibly close as well. First base, Freddie Freeman has cooled off a little bit from his fast start, but it's still Freddie Freeman. It's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's a guy that if he's up to bat with the game on the line at any point, you're feeling great about it. You want Freddie Freeman or do you want Vlad Guerrero Jr. on the other side? Maybe Pete Alonso. Really close again, right? So far, you've got 3 pushes. It's close. A team of all-stars from the rest of the major leagues and the Dodgers. I think that all 3 of those, it's almost throw it up. It's a hat. It's a coin flip. Second base, Tommy Edman against Ketel Marte. It's Marte. I love Tommy Edman. He's one of my favorite Dodgers, NLCS MVP last year, but it's Marte. So a little bit of an advantage going over there. Third base, again, I think goes to the other side. Max Muncy has finally kind of dug his way out of that really significant hole. The glasses worked, right? But if you're talking about third base on the other side, you're going to get Jose Ramirez. You're going to get Manny Machado. I know Dodger fans, you hate Machado's guts. I get it. I hear you. He's awesome. Okay, I'm not saying you got to like the guy, but you got to respect the fact that he's another one that's going to walk straight to the Hall of Fame. So two guys, Marte and Ramirez / Machado over there, they've got it. Shortstop, Mookie Betts. Okay, is he having a Mookie Betts MVP level year? No. Is Mookie Betts better than Bobby Witt? Might be. Is Mookie Betts better than Francisco Lindor? Yeah, I'd take Mookie. I know those guys are regular shortstops, but if you're telling me who do I want, I'm going to take Mookie there. So I'll give the Dodgers the nod right there. Left field, yeah, okay, fine. Throw Juan Soto or Ronald Acuna out there. They're better than Michael Conforto or Hyun Kim. They've got that covered on that end. So I'll give that one to them as well. So another win on the other side. Center field, Pete Crow Armstrong for the major league team and Andy Paz. Again, PCA is having a better year than Andy Paz is, but it's not a runaway. This is the point that I keep making, that while some of these things might be slightly tilted the other way, this isn't the, Ronald Acuna, Michael Conforto sort of disparity between these two spots. The PCA might win the MVP in the National League, but if you're saying I got to take Andy Paz, okay. I'm feeling pretty good about that. PCA's a better player, I guess, and he's having a better year, but it's not by a million miles. Right field, Teo's been really good. He's been colder of late, but no one's messing with Judge. Judge gets that one over on the other side. Closer, Tanner Scott for the Dodgers against a Suarez Clase, matchup on the other side. Go ahead. You pick first. I'll be fine with whoever comes out of there. And then at the designated hitter spot, it's Shohei Ohtani, and you go ahead and take the next 10 best guys. I'll stick with Ohtani. This is a game. This is a game that you're turning on. This is a game that when you sit down to watch it starting at the top of the first inning, you don't know who's going to win that game. That's how loaded the Dodger lineup is. That's how well this lineup has performed. I know that in spring training and during the winter when you're looking at this, you're thinking, oh, if this happens and that happens, then maybe the Dodgers will have one of these lineups that's as good as just about anybody else. Well, it's happening. This is the real world here sitting in 2025. And with all of these, the only spot in that lineup that you're like, yeah, I think you could do significantly better is in left field with Michael Conforto. And he's even started to come out of it a little bit. And even if you said, okay, he's just is what he is, you could throw Kim in there and feel pretty good about it. You could shuffle the deck with some of those pieces. You want to put Edman in the outfield and whatever it is you want to do, that's fine. The point is, an all-star team of the other 29 teams in Major League Baseball playing against a team of the Dodger regulars, that's a 7-game series, and I don't know who's going to win it. Then we're going to get into more starting pitching. By the way, the deeper you go into that, maybe the better the Dodgers have a chance with their starting pitching, assuming they get some of these guys healthy, get Shohei stretched out, et cetera, et cetera. But my, oh my, that is way closer than any sort of one team against the 29 others should ever be. So something fun to look forward to as we get a little closer to the All-Star break. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Dodgers. Make sure you check out all of the other fantastic Locked On podcasts as well. And, of course, Pete Fox has got your postcast after each and every Dodgers game. We'll be back here tomorrow. Don't forget to be an everydayer. My name is Travis Rogers, and go Blue.